verbal reasoning skills. You have to be smart and able to talk and think through things. You have to have an ability to visualize mechanical systems. What he meant here was you have to have the ability to be able to close your eyes and say, okay, if I was to create an index on this table, when this query executes, it would do 3 IOs through the index and then a 4th against the table. You have to be able to close your eyes and mentally be able to figure out what will probably happen as a side effect of me doing something. Requires excellence from self and others. Has first-class negotiating skills because good code takes longer to write and test than bad code. Many managers want code delivered sooner rather than later. So you need to be able to talk your way out of that. Has received a first-class education. Doesn't mean you went to the best universities. You know, if you've been working for 5 years, that's a great way to get an education as well. You know, after being in the industry for 23 years, my college education doesn't matter so much. It's what have I learned in the last 5 years. Can write excellent technical prose. How else can you write the requirements for something? How can you specify what the application must or must not do? Has easy access to one or several excellent mentors, teachers. So far you're looking at this list and saying, wow, you know, if somebody meets all this criteria, they're already smarter than I am. Why do they need your best practices? Then he went on with the last 2 requirements. Remember, this was a PL SQL best practices presentation. He said the last 2 are the most important. In order to use my best practices, you must know the Oracle database inside and out, and know PL SQL inside and out. I was like, wait, what? If I know PL SQL inside and out, and I know the database inside and out, why do I need your best practices? You want my best practices, because I already know everything. But he said, this is what people need to have before you can use his best practices. So I sat there and said, okay, let's hear what he has to say. And he started going through his best practices. And I would sit there shaking my head going, no, I would never do that. Then he would explain, oh, that makes sense. One of his advice was, don't rely on public synonyms. Never call, for example, the DBMS output package. Don't go DBMS output.putline in your code. Always go sys.dbmsoutput.putline. I was like shaking my head, no, that's 4 extra characters. I don't want to type that every time. And then he said, because think about what would happen if somebody creates or replaces the DBMS output package. They can get in between your application and the API you thought you would call it. They could put a Trojan horse in. So DBMS output, probably safe, but DBMS SQL, probably not safe. Most of the other database packages, not safe. Don't rely on a public synonym, because somebody can just come in and drop in code that overrides the public synonym, and you would never know. So if you want to write more secure code, always fully qualify your references. And so by the end, I was going, yeah, makes sense. But if I didn't know PL SQL inside and out, and I didn't know how Oracle worked, I wouldn't know how to apply his best practice. I wouldn't know if it made sense. I wouldn't know why I was using it. I wouldn't know what it did for me. But by knowing this, his best practice made sense. But think about who's looking for best practices. It's not people who know Oracle inside and out and the database inside and out. So beware of them. In conclusion, always question everything. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to raise your hand in a group like this and say, why? Or but, and then give some counter case, some example that contradicts what's being said. Take your time. we have a saying, there's never time to do it right, but always time to do it over. Right? Trying to do it right the first time. And very importantly, question authority. Don't be afraid to question them. Just because someone like me writes something doesn't make it true. Everyone makes mistakes. Feel free to question. I'm going to take a break now. So recall on the page, I finished exactly on time. It is 14:50, and that's exactly when I was supposed to finish. And we have a short 15-minute break. So I encourage you to relax, move around a little bit, and we'll start up in 15 minutes. And I'll stay up here if anybody wants to come up and ask questions during the break or in and out. Thank you.
ご清聴どうもありがとうございました。トムさんの方で説明をさせていただきましたけれども、15分間の休憩になります。15分5分から次のセカンドセッションが始まりますので、15時5分にはこちらの方にお戻りよろしくお願いいたします。右側と後ろ側にですね、フリーのドリンクなどもございます。また、自動販売機などの廊下の通路のところにございますので、ご活用ぜひよろしくお願いいたします。それでは休憩に入ります。よろしくお願いします。